Yellow all. This is the Hockey on Tap podcast. I am Sammy Dean here with little Steve. Schwim is not here tonight.
Someone
So
else is missing, I think.
what are we drinking?
I didn't even
What do you
get a
got
drink
there?
yet. I'm so
What do you got
thrown
there?
off here. Sam, let's go in the fridge. Are you going to come with me into the fridge?
Yeah, I'll come to the fridge.
I'm opening the refrigerator. There's not a whole lot. All right, this works. See how well prepared we are for this? I don't even know what to do. Something's
Yeah, I
missing.
thought we were supposed to go
can't
at
put my
8:20.
finger on it. Yeah, 8:20 as someone's sitting on the bench at Menin Arena yelling at kids for playing a Bush League game.
Let me tell you something. I was very smart years ago when you remember, Kimmy, our friend,
Yes.
the late Kimmy,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, "Sam, coach my kids, Tyler, coach them." All right, I'll coach them with Hans,
Yeah.
and and the team's name, they were called the Bullets.
I remember that. That
Bullets
was another lifetime
hockey!
ago.
Bullets hockey.
Tyler still plays. I actually play against him now, which is
Really?
crazy because, yes, I just remember him being this little annoying child running around the damn rink talking smack about everybody.
Yeah, now he's
Well,
got
now-
a kid, I heard.
Still
You know
talks
how I
like
heard
that.
that? You know
How'd
how I
you hear
heard
that?
Tyler as a kid? A podcast fan that walked into the bar when I was setting up, somehow we got talking, and he knows Tyler. And I'm like,
Oh.
I used to coach him. And because of that team, this is why I don't get involved in any coaching, parents, politics.
I think he still needs coaching, to be honest.
Yeah, Coach Sam, put me in. No, I'm going in anyway.
Yeah.
Or I remember this kid. One kid, his name was Hunter, and he cross-checked. Yeah, any kid that's named Hunter,
Yeah.
you gotta watch out. And then Hunter cross-checked some kid from behind. It's not a clean hit, hence trying to make a reference to the title. Wasn't a clean hit, and then you get the opposing team's parents coming to my bench to tell me that I should not purposely try to hurt their children. It's like, yeah, right. I can't even control these kids because I got to baby them. I can't yell at them. I can't swear. I have to set a good example. I try to bench him, and he still goes out.
I'm not even a coach. I don't even know why
I'm a
agreed to this.
volunteer. Do you think I get paid for this? To get abused by you? And I remember what's that?
No, we had a crazy. We used to do the camps there. And speaking of crazy parents and with their kids, we had an older camp. Do you remember this? We had an older camper. Like just the one younger camper ran into the older camper like right at the boards, and I guess the father thought that this kid. And granted, I'm talking older camper. He was 12, so I'm not talking like 17, 16, whatever. This kid's 12 years old. The father thought he was a counselor, and he walked down to the rink and like strangled this kid. I wonder what happened to that guy. I know he had full charges pressed on him, and there was a whole news reporter showed up at the rink for it. He was like a former fireman or something like that. That was bad. That was scary.
Hey, in all seriousness, you got that text. Maybe we should lay off the hits.
No,
for now.
sure.
Yeah. Let's lay off the hits for now, and we'll. Did you get the show notes at least? What am I supposed to do?
I mean, if they're there, I haven't looked at
You know
them.
what? Who cares? Because I don't have the show notes, and we will improvise on the fly. Because
All right.
I didn't. Yeah, I thought I was going to be just. This is this was in my bag. I've got a Snapple. This is what I'm drinking.
I will open this. You know what?
We'll rate
me,
it.
so so I will open it and drink it for him.
Okay, yeah.
You know
Let's
one
do
thing,
that.
Sam, that I want to talk to you about. Interesting here. Getting into actual hockey news, right? Anton Khudobin was waived today, and I immediately thought of one team where I think he would be an immediate fit.
Okay.
And who do you think that was?
The Arizona Coyotes?
No, I mean, they totally
He can
can.
pay their taxes?
It makes no sense for Arizona to go after him. I thought the Devils would go after him. I still think that they will. I guess we'll see over the next till noon tomorrow. See if he clears. I wouldn't be surprised if he clears. But I think right now, with Jonathan Bernier out, which seems like it's going to be for a long time.
It's going to be a while.
And, going into the season, I know things have kind of changed based on the record now, but I know that it seemed like they wanted to go like a Bernier-Blackwood split in some kind of way. So what do you think about a Khudobin-Blackwood split?
Yeah, I mean, the Devils need to do something because I don't think rushing those two young goaltenders, Nico Dawes and Schmid, I don't think that's appropriate. They have something good going down in Utica.
Yeah.
And actually, Dawes is hurt. He got hurt about a week ago. And they actually, his name is Marek Mitten from Lake Superior State, signed last April.
Yeah.
Had to fill in, got his first victory in his debut. So that tells you on both ends that the Devils are organization short on goaltenders. And, I wrote this on my blog on thehockeybuzz.com. And, I don't want to sound like a jerk, not saying he's not deserving, but did you do your homework when you got Bernier? He was hurt last year. That should have been the first red flag. Carolina didn't even play him. That should be your second red flag. And third red flag is he's asking for too much money.
Which he got.
Which he got.
And he's, to be honest with you, if he comes back sometime after the Olympics or trade deadline is what it's sounding like, this is a serious issue with his hip, right? I think it's a hip issue.
Yep.
And then, not that I'm not going to call Mackenzie Blackwood fragile by any means, but he's been hurt too pretty frequently throughout his short career right now. So, maybe not a bad. And Khudobin's got 1 year left at 3.3, not terrible. And is Bernier? He signed. How many years did Bernier sign? Or was it just one?
2 years. It was 2 years. Right. 4.125 AAV. Total, I think 8.25. But with the team with salary cap space, with 2 years, not a big deal. But
it's not. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have Khudobin, Bernier, and Blackwood going to next season. But I don't know if Bernier would be trade bait. Obviously, he wouldn't be because he wouldn't be healthy. But maybe Khudobin could be trade bait at the trade deadline. Because I think right now there's not enough teams that are really, really looking for maybe a split kind of guy. But with his playoff experience, come trade deadline, I think for some depth, a team might be interested. So it might not be a bad idea to get him for nothing. You have the cap space, and then potentially try to get a little something at the trade deadline. Or even in the offseason for him or even Bernier, if they want to. I think Bernier is a little less attractive with that contract and his injuries, but I don't think it would be a bad idea, but I also I wouldn't be surprised if he just clears waivers and heads down to the AHL, the way teams are right now with their cap space. And these bottom dweller teams that are still looking for a guy, I mean, Khudobin's not the guy. So, is Ottawa going to try? Is Buffalo going to try? Arizona going to try? It doesn't make sense for them to, but I guess we'll see.
Well, you make a good point. I mean, you know what? The Devils, they need goaltending right now, and more than ever, because they're giving up a lot of shots on goal. You're talking about
Right.
40, a lot of them high quality chances. Mackenzie Blackwood's going to be worn out. It's not like the days of Marty Brodeur where, okay, he would face about 20, 25 of them. Half of it is because of his skill set. He plays the puck. He doesn't give up rebounds, so he limits his work. Some goaltenders need work.
Yeah.
And, Marty Brodeur was more of a hybrid style, more 60 to 70% stand up. But now with Bernier and his hips, these butterfly goalies, and your goalie yourself,
Yeah.
Especially the bigger goaltenders, it wears you down. Patrick Waugh is one. I mean,
Look at Ben Bishop now, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Calling it
as
a
far as
career.
goaltenders go, it don't get much bigger than that. And some chronic injuries here and there, but this last one they're calling it a degenerative knee injury, and he's at 33. Is he years old? No,
Yeah.
30. I forget, 30, mid 30s. He's calling a career, and he got hurt when he was still. I would consider him in his prime. He still had great numbers, great success, a lot of wins. There was a lot of promise for Dallas going into playoffs with him until that injury. Yeah, you feel bad for these, but like you say, with these goalies that are they're much larger now, and this butterfly style, yeah, it takes a toll on the knees and the hips, and recovery is very difficult.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, little Steve, you talk about Marc-Andre Fleury, since we're on the topic of goaltenders, 500th, the most charismatic player, probably good-natured player in the league. I have a Marc-Andre Fleury story. He got his 500th win with Chicago in Montreal. They're chanting his name. And, of course, it's in Montreal, right?
Yeah.
Back when he was drafted first overall. He had all the pressures. And our group of friends, back in the heyday, big Devils fans that can talk the talk and walk the walk because the team was winning. Here comes the lockout. Now we can't walk the walk. We can talk the talk, but just can't walk the walk. Matter of fact, if we walk the walk, we'll probably get injured, just like half of this team of the New Jersey Devils, and probably get into protocol as well on top of it. But anyway, so you remember those days. Pittsburgh, no money Pittsburgh, bankruptcy is always looming. You got to get that new arena, and to get it approved, you got to get that, grandma's slot machine arm to be doing this casino revenue to fund the arena back then. You've got a lockout. Fleury was drafted in 2003. You got that full year lockout. And what did we do? We went up to Albany to watch the Albany River Rats and the Baby Pens play in that arena because we had nothing else better to do with our time. And guess who was starting in net? Marc-Andre Fleury. And remember when in the World Juniors they were slated to win, but he passed the puck off of his own teammate's back and it went back into the net?
Yeah, I sure do.
And he only was able to get a silver medal out of that deal, a world championship.
Yep.
Well, we decided as a bunch of Devils fans that we thought we control this guy's career. We are going to harass him to no end, because you're talking about Albany River Rats, 3,000, 4,000 people attending, maybe a little bit more just because of the lockout situation, full year lockout. And we threw everything possible at him. Silver medal, and we were right behind him. Like we went all out and sat right behind him. We paid for those highest priced AHL tickets right behind him, and all the locals were like, wow, we got fans here, you know. So we're chanting silver medal, and then silver bells, you know, anything silver. And then by the third period, you know, our group, after drinking pretty much the
Yep.
entire day, whatever, I remember saying this once, and there was like this awkward silence for like about 4 seconds before everyone started bursting laughing. I remember Marc-Andre Fleury would actually look back at us, smile, and wink at us and laugh. He was taking it like a champion, and I'm like, we're here to psychologically damage you so you'll never beat the New Jersey Devils. And he's like laughing, waving, you know, like that, just playing with us, but he was being a professional, but knew that we were just kidding around. And then finally I was like, not only are you a silver medalist, you let down your country. And then there was this awkward silence for 4 seconds. I'm like, oh, did I go over that line? And then everybody looks at me and just bursted out laughing. You know, it's all your fault. It's all your fault. That's when Zach Parise was playing with.
Yeah.
Check out this
With Albany?
line. Yeah, it was. I think it was Parise, Cam Jansen, and Aaron Voros was a line. I think.
That's all.
Isn't that
offense.
crazy? Yeah.
Yeah, you would never think in 1,000 years Cam Jansen would ever be on Zach Parise's line. Ever.
Well, you know what? Back then, you knew that Jansen and Voros can fight, but they also could hit. They could also hit with authority. So it kind of, I think it was one of those things where I'm not sure back then if they were strategically planning it, the Devils, protect our star.
Yeah.
Let him develop, but protect. No one messes with him, because you're talking about he should really be in the NHL to start,
Right.
you know. But you know how everyone's trying to make a name for themselves because all attention was on the AHL that year. You know?
Yeah.
Sorry for that elongated story, but I figure since we're burning time here,
who won the game? Who won that game?
I'd like to say the Devils did.
Mm-hmm.
But
Probably right.
something tells me, well, see, that whole trip, this was a guy's trip, right? That whole trip was a mess because it all started, we got 2 rooms, right? My buddy Rick puts it on his credit card, right? So we got 2 rooms. He doesn't even get a bed because we had a friend named Wimpy that got so drunk off of Long Island iced teas that he just slept in. But he didn't even go to the game. He got passed out before the game and was sleeping in Rick's bed. The other bed was my buddy Bob's, and Hans slept in that bed. And you know that flip the mattress chant that we always.
Yeah.
That's where that came from. You know what I'm talking about? I don't want to embarrass it because this is all live stream right now. I'm probably going to get like texts. So
if you know him, you know.
Yeah. And then in the other room, it was connected to another room. And it was probably like 15 guys. You know, I was lucky that I got my own room. I didn't cheap out. I got my own room, so I didn't have to deal with anybody. But I was very quiet about it because I didn't want anybody to take my king-size bed up at the Crown Royal Plaza in
Albany, New York.
In Albany. So, and I remember, do you remember the old biscuit hats? It was like a knit hat. Yeah. I think I still have it.
I think I just got rid of mine. I think I sent it to donation when I was moving.
Oh, it's the best hat. It's for those that are listening. It is one of those like hockey helmets, but it's really like some kind of wool hat or something like that.
Helmet hat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got them at the rink, right? I think the rink got a whole bunch of them, and then we just took them all.
So it said biscuit there. So afterwards, we're waiting for Zach Parise to come out, right? And I got a picture of this. We put a top hat on Zach Parise. Like, we owned him because it's like, hey, he's not an NHL star yet. Let's
Was he
teach him.
19
Let's
at the
show him the
time?
ropes. Yeah, he was like 20 years old at the time.
Yeah.
Now he's like 36 with millions of dollars, and
Yeah.
he's probably got protection right now from fans like us. So we're like looking for Zach. So finally, I'm like, I got impatient, so I started gallivanting around, like looking behind the scenes and all that. And then I have to, because it's back then, I have to because we live in a very PC world, I'm going to strategically say this. So I look around and the security guard goes, "Hey, you can't go there. You can't go there." And I turn around and my stoner Nick goes to the, saw what was going on. So he's like, "Oh, no, 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 no. Don't yell at him. Don't yell at him. Don't yell at him." And he said, Biscuit, come here. And I played along with it in front of the security guard. He's like, "No, no, no, no. He's with me. He's with me. He's harmless. He's harmless." I'm like, "Hey, Nick, this is a fun game." And the something about Mary. I think that was the movie that came out at the time. So
Warren.
So he totally bought it. I was like, "No, Biscuit, you're supposed to come over here." Okay. And then stories that we tell on Hockey on Tap, as I shared it on the Let's Go Devils podcast network.
Yeah.
Because we got people on Twitter watching, and maybe, yeah. So those are tuning in. This is the Hockey on Tap podcast. I'm here with Lil Steve, filling in for Billy Dean. Schwim, the other co-host, had some previous engagement. I don't know. Was he playing hockey? I didn't even know what was the
It's Schwim
reason.
and Cynthia's anniversary. Happy anniversary,
guys.
guys.
Happy anniversary.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, let's have a toast to them.
All right. Cheers to both of you. Cynthia was watching. I don't know if she still is, but probably not, I would gather.
Just remember, Schwim, I'm just trying to help and fill in, all right?
Billy Dean, unfortunately, had to deal with an emergency, so he is...
Yeah. And, don't worry about Billy. We'll hold the fort.
Yeah,
we're not
doing
going to
an
use your
excellent
short
job
notes.
right now.
I'm already telling Biscuit stories and how we harassed Marc-Andre Fleury, and he turned out to win 3 Stanley Cups anyway. But not those years.
Nope. You got to him at first. Hey, Melvin, you gotta come over here, give your input. He's just...
You know what? I would love to have a town hall session and be in the crowd and just ask Marc-Andre Fleury, because that was the wildest AHL trip I've ever been on. Probably because I've been on a couple, with the Devils, with the River Rats. That was probably one of the wildest trips because we were also in the same hotel as the baby Penguins.
Oh, really?
So the next morning, oh yeah, this story goes on, dude. I mean, it was so wild. Some of the stuff I'm not going to talk about, not because it's bad, it's just inside jokes that we were, pulling on each other. But afterwards, was it afterwards? Yeah, because, the AHL, they play back-to-back. So you play one night, so it's a 2-for-1. You go there Friday night, watch the game, and then they have another game Saturday night with the same team. So the next morning, what do? We need to get breakfast. So we're walking around the hotel looking for the buffet, whatever they have. And they had this big ballroom, and it was all the baby Pens. They were staying there. So we're like, whoa. I think, is a guy named Christensen? Is that
Eric
name?
Christensen.
Yeah.
Eric Christensen.
I think it was
shootout
him.
Specialist. He's terrible at everything else, but he's great on shootouts.
Yeah, name some guys in that era. I don't think Letang was on that team. It's 2004.
Letang was... No, I don't think he was drafted yet. Brooks Orpik might have been there.
Yeah, I think he was there.
Ryan Malone might have been there.
Yes. These names are familiar. So, because you knew that back in those days that the Pens would be really big. So you're kind of watching out. At the same time, it's like, hey, we got to abuse them early. We got to abuse them early and get them early and get in their heads, right? So here we are. They're all like in the breakfast line buffet. We're watching through the door, all that kind of stuff. And lo and behold, there was a piano in the lobby, right next to. And I know a little piano back in the day when I was 7, 8 years old. I mean, typical Asian household. Everyone's going to play piano at age 5 and be like, I was one of them, but I wanted to be a drummer. So I go over there, and I was playing. First, I played Top Gun, and Hans and Tony were like, "Oh, you know how to play?" And then I played Three Blind Mice. So the notes went Three Blind Mice. So think on the piano, dun dun dun. I did that over and over and over for probably about an hour and 15 minutes, just so it'd be stuck in their heads. This stupid piano song. And for all you Penguins fans, you know how you lost that series against Detroit, the first Stanley Cup Finals? I attribute to that because that was probably still stuck in their heads.
Three Blind Mice was playing. This is an extensive lineup I'm looking at here. Who else was there?
What? 2004?
Colby Armstrong? Yeah,
yes,
this is 03-04 season. Colby Armstrong was there.
Yep. And Christensen. I think those are the two I annoyed. I don't think Jordan Stahl was there yet.
No, he wasn't.
I think he was drafted later. Yeah.
He was drafted after Crosby. Konstantin Koltsov. Eli Manning, who is now a coach. Brooks Orpik was there.
See, he was probably there.
Yeah.
I could probably ask him, hey, Three Blind Mice.
Yeah. Sebastian Caron, Andy Chiodo, who is now the Penguins goaltending coach, was also there.
I got to pull out. I got to pull out the photos. If I could find it, I should pull out the photos of that night. That 2-day weekend, just 2 days in Albany was just out of control.
Who else was there? You know who else was there? Ryan Whitney.
Yes. I think those are the three.
That's a big name.
The three I annoyed was aside from Fleury, was Armstrong, Whitney, and Christensen. Those three, were they pals on the team? Those three walked together, and the whole time.
Colby and Marc-Andre Fleury and
I should ask.
I guess Christensen too. I don't really know. He wasn't really a constant, but yeah, he should. Chris Beach.
I would love to ask them
from that Yarmer Yager trade. Chris Beach was there.
Yes.
Man, this is both like there's some good players here and some really quite bad ones. That is so funny.
So, are you telling me that I may have annoyed Elaine Nazardine, the Devils' assistant coach? Was he a player or a coach then? He was a player, right?
He was playing, yeah.
I must have annoyed him. I probably was counterproductive. Maybe that's the reason why the Devils suck so bad. Three Blind Mice.
That's what he's hearing. That's what he's singing to Devils players now. Or he stops at a piano in the lobby of the hotel and plays it for him.
This is probably pregame, when he's talking to the penalty killing. Block, block, block. Block that puck. Block that puck.
I wonder how they did this here.
This podcast is off the rails. For those that are listening in, watching right now, this was totally unplanned. So we're just making do. Hopefully Billy Dean will hopefully Billy Dean will watch this and laugh.
I hope
Same with Schwim. Yeah. Why don't you take over for a couple seconds? I gotta do some tech stuff.
All right, well, what else is in the news today as I talk to myself over here? Injury to the injury to Ben Bishop really kind of it bothered me because he was in a real good spot in his career, and
yep,
I was really hoping he would, a Vezina Trophy finalist a couple times, twice I believe. I'm not entirely sure. I wish Schwimmer were here to really give his opinion. If he hadn't gotten hurt against Chicago in that Stanley Cup final in 2015, Vasilevsky played. I believe it was Vasilevsky came in for him. I think he played admirably. In fact, I think he won his first 2 starts. But do they win that series with Ben Bishop? Because that was one of his best seasons statistically.
I think so, because you can't. I'll tell you a reason why. Size matters in the playoffs. If you're a hot goaltender, and he had a great year, and with that size and frame, and he was moving very well, I was actually shocked that Tampa didn't go all the way that year. Who did they lose to again? I forgot.
Chicago. That was the last of Chicago's 3 Stanley Cups that they had won. Chicago had a great team. They were a powerhouse in themselves, but Tampa, that playoff year, he was kind of carrying the team, and that was the year that there was the breakout line of, I think it was Palat, Tyler Johnson, and Nikita Kucherov.
Yeah.
When Tyler Johnson I think he and Patrick Kane were co-leaders in points that year. It was kind of a crazy season, but I don't know. And same with so I don't necessarily know. I know I had brought it up in the past. Does a healthy Ben Bishop, the healthiest of Ben Bishops, does he beat Tampa Bay in that lockout cup final with Dallas? I don't want to say that Khudobin played poorly or anything was his fault, because he still played very well. But if a healthy Ben Bishop is there, I don't know if it changes the series, but it certainly makes it a little more competitive, I think, to have a goaltender like that. Because you're having a Vezina Trophy finalist in Ben Bishop versus a Vezina Trophy winner in Andrei Vasilevsky. That's a heck of a matchup in a Stanley Cup final. But stinks that with this injury. I wish him the best. I know he tried to come back and just didn't work out. I liked him.
Yeah,
good American goaltender.
It's sad to see big goaltenders go down. I felt bad about Corey Schneider. That he seemed like, in that 2017-2018 season for the Devils, the only year that, the new administration actually made the playoffs, he was out, hurt, and it was Keith Kincaid that stood on his head and got him in there. And then he got a chance to play, but they ran into the Tampa Bay Lightning, first seed, despite having Taylor Hall's MVP season. I feel bad because it seemed like he was always mopping up. He was always during mop-up time, where he's at the pinnacle and prime of his career, gets traded to New Jersey under weird circumstances. How do you replace Martin Brodeur, and playing 1 year with Marty, which he probably, for his career in general, should have been the full-time starter, 60 games, 70 games. But instead it has to share, and then the Devils are in the midst of a rebuild, and you only have so much time as a goaltender to win the Stanley Cup, and then not everyone can be Marty Brodeur with the longevity. And then as soon as the team started to show some life, that season, that's where his injuries started to pile up. Yeah. Goaltenders. And one of the biggest reasons why Brodeur, his longevity, it's not because he was on the Tom Brady diet, although that probably would have helped. It's strictly because he was so efficient with his time, and the Devils' focus on defense, it saved a lot of mileage early on in his career, because he was probably the best goaltender in the history to play behind a defense that had the trap. Because he was always awake when he was waiting for a puck. He was praying for a puck to hit him so he could be awake. Some goaltenders need a lot of work. Not Brodeur. He could get 21 saves and be sharp throughout the entire game. He knew how to focus when he had to, and he never got distracted.
Yeah, like somebody like Fleury, talking about Fleury, I think he does much better with more volume of shots. Some
Yeah.
goalies just excel with the high volume and don't do as well with the low volume. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's hard to stay shot sharp when you're 16 save shutout. Sounds like an easy night, but I don't know. Part of me feels like that might be a little tougher than 30 save shutout or something like that, just because
Yeah.
it's really hard to just stay in the game at all times and just wait for that. When's the next shot coming? We don't know. You got to stay, warm and flexible and alert. And it's challenging. Although, sometimes it is an easy night because the shots are all from the perimeter and you see all of them and it's just, there's not a whole lot of work to do, but still to stay that focused. But
let's focus on the topic at hand, because I made up the title, so we don't. I want to talk to you about clean hits, because some of these brutal hits that have gone
talking like
on
Jacob Trouba.
Yeah, and again, we're not talking about premeditated, malicious, whatever. Let's talk about these hits.
Mm-hmm.
I think the game has changed quite a bit since Scott Stevens, played Darren Hatcher about 20 years ago.
Pronger.
Yeah, Chris Pronger. And then you go 20 years prior, the Broad Street Bullies. I mean, that was really brutal. Like, not only did you needed skill back then, you needed brawn. And if you didn't have brawn, you will never unleash your skill. Like, that was a different time period, different game. You talk about now these, quote unquote clean hits. Number one, player safety is much different now than it was back then.
Barely existed back then.
Yeah, some of those hits that I saw seemed clean back in 2000 standard. But am I right or am I wrong? Doesn't the NHL rules right now kind of deter it, where you should really let up on those type of hits? Or
I think yes, and well, the problem is that they're horribly inconsistent. That's number one.
Yeah.
In the rulings and the penalty calls and things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, they're trying to. All of the rules are in place to dissuade somebody from, ending a career potentially, and sometimes they get it right. I understand there's a fine line, but now there's so much review now between in-game review and after the fact review. And what I was just saying on Jacob Trouba's hit on I can't remember his name, from Chicago, Kira. I can't remember how to say his name. Was so in all. Breaking down the rules, it's supposed to be a clean hit, but my problem with it is he had the choice to either completely devastate this guy or, ease up a little bit, bump into him, do whatever. But it's so, I mean, the game is fast. Yes, the game is fast. But at some point, some of these players that are just on the borderline, I think you need to let up a little bit just so you're not sending guys to the hospital. Yeah. There's no reason to send a guy to the hospital. It's just that part of the game needs to leave. And I like hits. I like big hits. Big, clean hits are fine. But if you're having a clean hit and, you have a choice, right? You have a choice to just bury a guy with such force that you have the potential to injure them. I think that needs to leave players' heads. And I know it's easier said than done with some of these guys that, have rocks for brains, and that's all they've ever known was just hitting people really hard.
Well, I'll tell you how I was taught. I don't know. I remember one time, I believe it was during tryouts, in college.
Yeah.
And I remember having my head down near the boards, and the door opened, and the captain, the senior, his name was Matt, skated as hard as he could and probably could have seriously injured me. And this was like kind of a scrimmage between, blue and white kind of thing. And that door was open. I remember my head was down trying to dig deep for the puck. And he skated and he, snowed me a little bit, took his stick, hit my butt with it, and he said, "Keep your head up. I could have killed you."
Yeah.
Just like that. And I never forgot that, because he respected the game more than showing a freshman who's boss.
Right.
Like that kind of thing. And it taught me a lesson, and it also gets to my other point about, I think nowadays, back in the day, it was kind of like, I don't know if you remember playing. It used to be the coach would be, it's a very macho way. Keep your head up, or else it's your fault. I think it's two ways. I think, you need to keep your head up. You never should lose sight, but at the same time, on the other end, if you're going to distribute it, you've got, how do you restrain yourself for those clean hits, and also,
It's like a defenseless receiver, right?
yeah,
In football,
yep,
it's exactly the
yep,
same way. And
yep,
yeah, like what you're saying. And I hit them hard, hit them clean, but do it when they see you. You're looking eye to
yep.
eye. Hit them hard and clean. But if they do not see you, you're going to seriously injure this person, and that needs to leave.
I'll give another example, and I'll use football example. Eli Manning. In his rookie year, he was a deer in headlights.
Mm-hmm.
In his rookie year, he's playing against the Philadelphia Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field. It was like probably the first year it opened, maybe second year. Crowds going nuts. Those Eagles-Giants games.
Yeah.
And he was scrambling to get out of the pocket. And one of the Eagles players let up. And even Eli Manning admitted that, actually appreciated his sportsmanship, because he could have ended his career right then and there, because he was so vulnerable he didn't even know it.
Right.
That kind of thing. And I think that's where sportsmanship, comes in. I would say if we were coaching kids, I told you I don't want to coach kids anymore, but if I was coaching kids right now, what's the goal? The goal is to beat the other team. The goal is not to put somebody in the hospital.
Yeah.
And putting somebody in the hospital is not, first of all, it's not etiquette. It's not, now you're above the game. You want to win.
It's not an accomplishment. It's not an achievement. There's no accolade for it.
But then again, am I a hypocrite? I mean, it's a different game back then, but I think looking back, I think I was foolish to be praising Scott Stevens, just basically destroying Eric Lindros's career. His head was down, and, Devils fans talk about the hit around the world, but at the same time, Eric knew what he was doing. But, but back then, concussions, we really didn't know too much like we do today. Right. But I guess with the head, the human head, genetically speaking, it hasn't evolved in the last 10,000 years as far as we know, but players are getting bigger and stronger. Like, it's not going to evolve and protect itself. Yeah, bigger, and you're talking about the human brain. Yeah. So, but anyway, but getting back to clean hits, I mean, what are your thoughts? Like, what Trouba said, and, just.
I mean, the guy. I mean, he gave the answer that anybody else would have given, right? And I guess they spoke, and he let him know he was okay. I guess he checked in on him, which is fine. I mean that's good. I mean that he didn't have to do that, I guess, but he did that. But it's the generic answer. Like, I wasn't trying to injure anybody. Like, get the hell out of here. You were
Yeah,
like, what are you trying to accomplish with that hit if not to injure him? It's
yeah,
exactly, you see a guy with his head down, you hit him as hard as you can. What is the goal there? You're not trying to
yeah,
knock him off the puck. You're trying to knock him through the boards.
yep,
And that happens. So, and you see, I mean, you get these answers, I hate this just generic answer that you get from these, not just hockey players, just like athletes everywhere. And they're like, oh, I'm not trying to hurt him, not trying to hurt him. But like, at some point, you need to take responsibility for what you do and, own up to the fact that, I shouldn't have done that and I need to take that out of my game.
yeah,
And like I said, don't take the hard hits out, but hit a guy who sees you coming. No blindside nonsense or just that's just as bad as a sucker punch in my book. If you're just like
yeah,
sneaking up behind somebody and hitting them as hard as you can. So I'm all for clean hits. I'm not. I would love those hits to get out of the game. I think that, and I think for the most part that defenseless receiver rule in football does a pretty good job percentage-wise. I think the majority they do. Obviously, there's mistakes, and obviously there's probably going to be mistakes made in the NHL as well. But I think they need to do a better job, similar to that rule, the defenseless receiver as a defenseless, however you want to call it, defenseless puck carrier or whatever. Somebody who just is completely blindsided by a devastating hit like that. I think something needs to happen. I know that they tried that, if the head is the focal point of the hit, then yeah, it's penalized. But I don't know. It needs to go beyond the whole just because that was, I mean, not only did his head just cracked the
yeah.
ice too. And that's what you're
You
dealing with. I
know,
mean, it's like getting hit by a truck and not seeing it coming.
maybe the mindset and mentality at the lower levels, maybe starting at a child's level, maybe as a coach, like what we were talking about, what is the goal? Or maybe the new goal should be taught at a young age. The goal is not to hurt anybody either,
Yeah.
you know, physically hurt. A hard check is one thing, but a devastating check is another,
Yeah.
and accidents do happen. We could see that on the replay, but, maybe letting up is not such a bad thing, you know, um, as long as as long as you can still keep that competitive spirit there, because I think at the end of the day, I don't think any hockey player wants somebody to be on a stretcher because nobody wants to be that person.
Yeah.
So you have to take that responsibility. I know in lacrosse, one of the greatest traditions in lacrosse is you shake hands before you start the game. And it's like it's admirable. It's just hey, this is friendly competition, so be it. And then
Yeah.
afterwards we shake hands. Something like that, because I hate to see players' careers end. And like, remember Pat LaFontaine? How many
Yeah.
concussions he had?
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of concussions. You're talking
Yeah.
about multiple.
Paul Correa is the same. That's a reason why
Yeah.
Paul Correa will not involve himself with the NHL anymore because the player safety completely let him down
Yep.
with these head injuries. And he's right. And of course, we were learning more back then, and it should have been. We knew. I mean, it was. I mean, the evidence was out there. It was just whether or not the league took any of it into consideration in all sports.
Yeah.
And
It
it
was
didn't
kind
help.
of taboo back then, if you think about it, because it was
Yeah.
kind of like, if you go back in those days, even like nicotine and big tobacco and all that, the whistleblower back in the 90s,
Oh yeah.
and then it slowly started to progress like, hey, whistleblowers may be right, they need to be protected. And then people started to speak up, and I think Eric Lindros is in the Hockey Hall of Fame. There were a lot of debate about it on his, numbers, playing time, all that. I say nonsense because if it wasn't for Eric Lindros, the game changed because of what happened to him. Because he comes out of major juniors all hyped up, says no to the Quebec Nordiques. Now he's on the Philadelphia Flyers after a major trade in the fourth largest sports market in the United States, carrying the load. There in Philadelphia at that time was really still in that Broad Street bully mentality,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and he goes from juniors to the NHL, and he's still like playing reckless, meaning taking hits, giving hits. 82 game season. Eventually, his head couldn't go further after probably the 6th or 7th season. And his brother, Brett,
Mm-hmm.
his career, he was drafted by the Islanders. And those are the consequences. And as players, if you're part of a union, that's something amongst yourselves. You got to say, hey, we all want to be healthy here when we retire.
It's got to be
Just
scary, and you hear some of these guys. Not to go on a tangent about concussions, but these guys who you see guys that are out for a week with a concussion. You see guys that are out for months with a concussion, and you're just always like, if you haven't had one or had a serious one, and you don't know what the side effects are, where it hurts to be awake, to light hurts, sound hurts. It's a horrible feeling, and you feel, and constant pain and discomfort. It's no wonder, besides the damage that it does mentally to you, to some of these guys with CTE, but living with that pain, and then obviously painkillers, but living with that pain has to be agony.
Yeah.
Some of these guys take their own lives, and it's really sad, and you never want
especially
anything.
if the brain starts deteriorating.
Yeah,
because
and I don't care how cool a big hit looks. If it's negatively impacting somebody's brain like that, it needs to leave. Any hit's gonna have some effect, right? And it's a contact sport, and they're always gonna have it. But things like that are just sending guys to the hospital, it needs to be out of the game completely.
and that's where, even when you talk about fighting as well, right?
Yeah.
Very well documented former fighters taking their own lives after taking so many blows to the head. Bob Probert, he died very young. I forgot the reason why, but Boogeyman, Derek Bogard, yep, Rippin, I think it's Rick Rippin, in Vancouver, I think that's his name.
Yeah.
It's just it goes on and on and on and on. Not gonna lie, I get excited just like anyone else when these things happen. But now when you see the consequences, just like even in NASCAR, why do they have all these safety protocols now? Because drivers die. It's that simple, So, but yeah, but now protocols. I meant the COVID protocols.
Yeah,
but I don't want to put COVID there because everyone's sick of COVID. But a lot of players right now, a lot of players are in COVID protocols. I know with the Devils, there are a few players, Heischer and Yaros and Ryan Graves. But let me switch gears here. Go ahead.
No, a lot. It's affecting almost league wide now, and now it's
all
I believe
sports.
Calgary. Yeah, all sports. Calgary is Calgary's shut down now, I believe. Wilkes-Barre Penguins are officially off of their COVID hiatus. Speaking of Wilkes-Barre also, but the one game that was today was Calgary-Chicago. No, I didn't read if it was Chicago or Calgary who were the ones who are shut down because of this, but the only game tonight postponed.
Couple things I wanted to ask you. Keith Yandel, I believe it's Keith Yandel that's going for the Ironman record
for regular season games.
What if he's in protocol? Does he lose that streak?
Yeah. It's just like, I mean, he wasn't injured in the playoffs. He was just scratched.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can't put an asterisk like, he missed games because of COVID. That's just, he missed games because he had to miss games. I hope it
Yeah.
doesn't, because that's pretty awesome what he's done
Yeah.
with his longevity and his health and being so healthy.
Yeah.
So hopefully it doesn't affect. You just cross your fingers and hope these guys stay healthy. But
Yeah.
yeah, that would
Because
stink if that
I mean, that
affected
would
it.
suck if he was like exposed to somebody, but he doesn't have it, but they have to put him. That would just really, I would hate to see that happen. And, and also, I just want to just transition. Maybe this is the last topic. It's not on the list, but we're talking about COVID protocols. The NHL, the IOC, the Olympics
Mm-hmm.
right now. Basically, they said it's up to the players. Basically, it's pushing, it's passing it around. No pun intended. Some of those IOC protocols are very strict. You're
Yeah.
talking about a different country, as well. You have to respect any country's rules and regulations as well.
And laws, yeah. You're a
Do you
guest
think
there.
that?
You have to abide by their
Yeah.
laws.
Yeah, I mean, when I go to Canada, I don't fool around at the border when they look at my passport.
Yeah.
They want to search my car, they search my car. Go knock yourself out. Okay, don't mind that radar detector. I know it's illegal there, but don't mind that.
Ignore that.
But you know, if I were the players, I know it sucks, but you have so much to lose going there. I just can't see them pulling the trigger and going.
I don't know. I think there's still a little bit of time, so we can see how things go over the next couple of months. But I actually don't know when they officially have to make a decision. I assume it's sometime in January, which actually is coming up a lot faster than we think. And I think that's when they make the squads and stuff. But I don't know how long, what the deadline is to opt out or whatever. But yeah, they potentially do for sure. I know that like you're saying, the protocols for this Olympics are going to be extraordinarily strict. So if they thought the bubble that they were living in was bad, this is going to be a lot more strict as far as what you can and can't do, who you can and cannot interact with, even more so than Japan, I believe, and is what they're planning, because obviously,
Is there a
China wants this to
backup
happen.
plan if the NHL players don't go? Who do you
I don't know.
send? AHL?
I don't know if you just start scanning the right. You start scanning the leagues or whatever, and try to make a makeshift team based off of like amateurs or something. I have no idea.
Well, you see,
But
it's funny. It's funny you say this because there's just been this whole thing about Team China not even like being the host country an automatic
yeah,
bid.
they actually almost
And
were removed. They were
yeah,
considered to be removed, which would have been the first time for a performance-based reason that they would have been removed from an Olympic sport.
yeah. And this gives them a better chance of not embarrassing themselves,
Yeah.
essentially. But, I would have loved to see that, to be honest. Team USA or Team Canada, Connor
Mm-hmm.
McDavid, and, we're not even talking like you talk about, Miracle Team, 1980 Team USA. It's so different because they didn't even put the time into it.
It's funny that I don't even know if I brought it up on the podcast or not, but just thinking as far as perspective goes, we look back at the last IIHF World Tournament, whatever they had during the off season. The worst team in that tournament was Italy, ranked number 16 in the world. China is ranked 32. So the difference and they're in the same group as United States and Canada and Germany, is obviously a little weaker than both those teams, but I can't. They had some preliminary games in the KHL where they lost both, but it seemed like they put up a good fight. I don't know, but to go back to your point about them, the players choosing, I don't see. There might be a handful of guys who opt out, but maybe the guys who've been there before. But we were talking 4 years ago. They missed the Olympics. We don't know what's going to happen. They just kind of never know if they're going to be allowed to play in the Olympics. So we don't know what's going to happen 4 years from now. So I see a lot of these guys probably won't pass up the opportunity. And they'll just kind of deal with this.
It's the world's biggest country population-wise. There's a lot riding on it to showcase the game.
Yeah.
And the NHL basically putting on the players right now.
Well, the diplomatic boycott too, and a lot of countries, what's happening in China with its people, that's obviously a whole other topic, but that's another thing to consider possibly with some of these players, especially this whole, now granted, hockey is for everyone is a whole stratosphere away from what's actually happening in China right now with their people. But, if they want to stay at the same point, if they want to stay consistent about this inclusivity or just, end racism, yes, we're all on that. And, anything. I mean, what's happening over there is pretty despicable. So would some of those guys boycott because, that's kind of their mentality? That they're not going to support a country that's doing this?
Hockey is the only sport out of the four major where the league actually has to stop its own season to go play, right? So, Major League Baseball, they'll just send retreads, whatever at this point. Basketball, okay, it's in the summer, okay, it's during the off season, and football, well, there is no football, in the Olympics. So, it's a tough thing to ask the league, where the league and its teams have, a lot to lose. So, again, it should be interesting, and those that are watching us right now, we'll probably revisit this topic very soon. Yeah. But it is just my opinion. I think the NHL, in good faith with the NHLPA, should start brainstorming of not so much incentive for the players not to go, but at least an option where it may not be the Olympics, but, you could showcase the world's best, I don't know. But I don't know. I don't know what the solution. It's a tough call.
I don't either.
Or guarantee 2026.
Yeah.
Guarantee.
That, yes, for sure. But also, I mean, going back to just really quickly about if the players, if they don't go, nobody goes, what are they doing during the Olympic break? We're just not going to have a season for 2 weeks? There's nothing going to happen?
Well, I think that's going to be makeup games. I think it's going to be for makeup games. I also think it's going to be maybe beneficial so nobody does get COVID.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know.
They also have the All-Star break. The All-Star break is still happening as well. So there could be a lot of breaks coming all at the same time, but I don't know. I'm interested to see where this goes. I'm kind of dreading it. Yeah.
I'm kind of dreading from a content standpoint because it's kind of like, but then again, 9.5 months of no Devils hockey, we figured out how to go 4 times a week with stuff.
Yeah, that's impressive.
I don't know how we did. I don't even know how we pull it. And this is how Hockey on Tap, came about during a pandemic, right?
Yep. Nothing's happening.
Yeah, nothing's happening. I'm like, guys, hold off on these lists because
we got
eventually you won't be able to think of something.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
We'll see.
Steve, this was a very enjoyable burning 1 hour of
I can't even believe that was an hour. This hour went
Yeah,
flying by.
you see what happens when you don't have show notes? Then you can BS about how you annoyed. Now I remember those players: Colby Armstrong, is it Eric Christensen?
Eric Christensen, yep.
Yeah, and the other guy,
Ryan Whitney, right?
Ryan Whitney. Those trio, 3 blind mice, and I didn't even know Elaine Nazardine was on that team. I probably pissed him off as well.
Yeah, I wonder if he was. Yeah, you gotta. If you ever run into him, you gotta bring it up to see if he was. I know that they have some sort of rotating. They had so many players on the team that year, so who the heck knows who was even playing? But you should bring it up and see if he remembers, because that sounds like
I could probably look at
moment.
a whole box score or something like that. Be like,
yeah.
Oh, you're the guy on the piano? I wanted to kill you.
Yeah.
Ever since then, my coaching of the penalty kill has been terrible. When I think about it.
I can't get that damn song out of my head.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. All right, let me see what the controls here. What I told Billy Dean to do. Let's start.
Start up.
All right, it's supposed to play music right now. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there's the music.
All right, so why don't you rate your drinks?
Mine's from Magnify. I didn't even say what the heck it was. Up, Up, and Away by Magnify Brewing. Triple dry hopped IPA. It's bitter. It's Magnify IPA. Nothing against Magnify, but 3.75.
Nothing beats a
Sure.
warm Snapple peach that's been sitting in your bag for 2 days.
They can double as a urine container as well on long drives.
Oh, don't remind me about that. It has saved me in the Holland Tunnel.
I knew it.
Of course. I rated a 4.0.
Oh,
It
perfect.
still had its good taste. Also, it says down here that it's, let's see, free of artificial sweeteners and flavors. It's great.
I don't know if I believe that. But what is it? What does it rate as a urine container? 5? 5 out of 5?
5 out of 5.
There you go.
5
That's
out
all
of
that
5.
matters.
There we go. There we go.
See that Snapple? Next promotion.
Yeah. Yeah. Just never get the Snapple lemonade, because you never know what's really in there. You know, real quick, I can never have a cannoli or any of those.
Because of Van Wilder.
Those type. Yeah, Van Wilder. Yep.
I knew exactly where that was going.
Yeah, and it's funny because Scotty on our Let's Go Devils podcast, he's got one of those Van Wilder dogs.
Oh, the English
Winston.
Bulldogs.
Yeah. Yep.
The big set of nuts.
Yep. And you can always hear him humping the pillow in the background.
Oh God. Those poor dogs.
Yeah. Anyway, well.
All right, Sammy.
We're supposed to say a quote.
Oh,
Be patient, says David Blitzer. Be patient.
How about make it a law, don't declaw? I'll
There
go with
you
that
go.
one.
All right. I'll see it.
Adios, Sammy.